Hello and welcome to We Turned Out Okay. This is the show where we are always helping you feel seen, heard, and cared for. And I am Karen Locke Culp. I am the host of this show, and I also have a lot of wonderful resources over at WeTurnedOutOKAY.com. And I didn't finish properly. I'm still getting used to my new the what I'm helping you do, the thing that I talk about at the top of the show. So it's really the full length of it is I am helping you feel seen, heard, and cared for, even if you're parenting in difficult circumstances, and maybe even especially if you're parenting in difficult circumstances. I'm recording this in September of 2020, the most confusing back to school ever in the United States. Maybe Canada, maybe Australia, they're already in school. You all are, if you're listening from Australia, hello, first of all, you are already in school. So this isn't like you're not returning from a long break or something like that. Um, I I wanted to do, this is the third episode in my series. I'm calling them Basics Boot Camps. And I think a crucial tool, a crucial mindset tool for you that I want to share in this episode. And I really want to take it very, very, very back to basics. A while ago now, several weeks ago in our Facebook group, a mom asked, she was wondering, why did I choose the name We Turned Out Okay? She was wondering, like, and why did I choose the tagline, which is, this is the modern parent's guide to homeschool parenting. Oh my goodness. This is the modern parent's guide to old school parenting. I suppose right now it could be the modern parent's guide to homeschool parenting, because so many people are schooling at home. Although I would make a distinction between homeschooling and schooling at home. When you are a homeschooler, which we have been now for 13 years in my home, no one chooses your curriculum but you. And so when you are doing online or Zoom schooling and you're doing it affiliated with your school system or like a private school, that is school at home. So I try to be really careful with those distinctions, because homeschooling is nothing like schooling at home. We as homeschoolers get to choose when we do what we do. We get to build things into our schedule in the way that we want. Typically, in a typical year, it's a lot more sort of social than I think this year is shaping up to be, at least in person. But there are lots of ways that we can be social online and be social safe. So I just wanted to make that distinction. And I wanted to talk about why the show is called We Turned Out Okay, and why the tagline is the modern parent's guide to old school parenting. And it's so funny, this member of our Facebook group, she basically said, my experience of, quote, old school parenting is not what you talk about on the show, because everything I do on the show, and she points this out, is research backed and evidence based, and the best kind of positive discipline practices that we can bring into our parenting. That's what I am all about. And she says, my experience of old school parenting isn't that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, like, this feels very basic to me. This is a building block. And first of all, I loved the name We Turned Out Okay when I thought of it, because it does spark a little bit of like people are either going to go, ooh, I don't like that name. In fact, I've had people review the show and basically say, I resisted this podcast for a long time because I was afraid of, like, what would it be about? Like, that it wouldn't be about positive parenting. And but I wanted people to kind of look at it and go, that's interesting. And the way that it came about is because, so back in 2000, I believe this was 2014. So I was in the worst of my tendon disorder for my upper body. I've been living with a tendon disorder for 11 years. And this was the worst of it in my upper body. My thumb tendons went, and then all of the other tendons and muscles that, like, support your arm usage and especially fine motor and hand usage went offline for me. Like, I had 5% use of my hands. I couldn't twirl spaghetti or wash my own hair or pour coffee or, never mind like cooking for my family and doing the household chores that needed to be done and doing things that I loved, such as knitting or this was before there was any inkling of the podcast. I was dealing with those problems, and interestingly, those problems brought about this podcast, brought about this show and the website and everything, because while I couldn't do anything with my hands, I still had a great desire in my soul and in my heart to be helpful. And I found a way to be helpful. I was able to use my voice to do all of the writing, everything, basically still everything that I do online is by voice. So I've built this entire website and every podcast and all the notes and all the books that I've written and the We Turned Out Okay Playbook, which comes out, the first of each month. All of that is done by voice. And it wouldn't have happened if I did not get the tendon disorder, because I needed a complete disruption in order to realize what was wrong in my own life and fix it. Because the tendon disorder came about based on the stress and the ways that I was pushing my body, that we should never push our bodies. And I was doing it because I was caught up in like the sort of scurry, hurry, you've got to be all things to everyone. If you're a parent, there's so much guilt involved in like dropping any balls and not showing up as the perfect mother every moment of the day. I bet if you're listening, you know what that looks like. Even if you're a dad, right? You know what it looks like to try and be the perfect parent. We have these expectations that we put on ourselves. And the ones I put on myself made me sick, physically, debilitatingly sick. And the podcast was part of my recovery in the sense of like, it gave me something that I really could do, and it gave me people to help, and that's you. And so We Turned Out Okay wouldn't be here without the tendon disorder. And I really want to draw a direct connection between that disruption of my life, my personal life, and what we are all going through right now. The coronavirus has been, if nothing else, a massive, monstrous disruption in all of our lives. And it also represents a possibility for new things to grow and develop that wouldn't have happened without it. So in your family life, in your parenting, I want to kind of use this moment of this Back to Basics Bootcamp podcast episode to ask you to kind of look unironically around at what's going on and be able to find maybe the potential for something good to happen. This podcast is indubitably good. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of all the work that I do with parents. I do a lot of coaching and just helping of parents to get through tough times and thrive in tough times. And none of that would have happened without the disruption that I had in my life years ago. So to get back to my story here, I was visiting with friends. I had no use of my hands, and I knew that I wanted to create something. And I came up with, I came up with a couple of terrible names that I thought, maybe that's the thing. And I was working with a coach at the time, and basically he kept saying, I would bring up like some stupid, very bad, you have to have the first attempts to get to the good stuff, right? When you're doing anything creatively, that's how I've learned that it's worked anyway. So I brought my not so great ideas to this coach, and he every time was like, nope, that's not it. Nope, you could do better. Nope, that's not it. And I was very comfortable with the idea of just letting it flow and seeing what happened. And one day I was at a party with a bunch of friends, and one of the friends is a dad, and I don't remember exactly what he was talking about, but he was talking about something that was in reference to something his child is doing that he in his heart knows isn't going to be damaging. But the world around is basically sort of being judgy about that. So maybe it was, I don't know, drinking from the hose or something. Like it was some small childhood action, playing in the rain, something like that. and not in a thunderstorm, but just in the rain, right? And this dad said, we did those things and we turned out okay, right? And I was immediately like, oh, that's that could be. So when I brought it back to my coach, I said, I've thought of a name. I was almost sheepishly sort of like, here's the name I've thought of. Like, here I am in the corner. Don't look at me as I say this thing. And he pounced. He said, that's it. He says, it's awesome. And immediately he came up with the tagline. He said, okay, it's We Turned Out Okay, the modern parent's guide to old school parenting. And I immediately, that just resonated so much with me. Because that's really what we're doing here. And I'm talking about, when I talk about old school parenting, I'm talking about like prior to, well, I guess I'm talking, there have been good parents who practice old school parenting, as I think of it, all along. But I'm not talking about corporal punishment, for example. My version of old school parenting that I want you to practice has nothing to do with humiliating, shaming, using violence on kids to make them do stuff. That's very authoritarian. Totally not what I'm about at all. I'm also not about, some people might think of old school parenting as, we didn't, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good one and I totally can't. There's we were, spanked and beaten up all the time and we turned out okay. That's the authoritarian version that I was just talking about. And then there's this other the kids will take care of themselves. It's fine. I don't have to do anything for them. I'm just going to, stay over here and ignore these children that I've brought into the world. That's passive parenting. And oftentimes passive parents are very loving, but they don't have enough structure. And so passive parenting is also not what this show is about. It's not what the Modern Parent's Guide to Old School Parenting references. The old school parenting that I'm thinking about is really right in the middle. It includes a wonderful, loving sense from the passive end of that spectrum, and it includes the firmness and the boundary setting that comes from the authoritarian end. It is not one or the other. It's really in the middle. There's a wonderful method of parenting where kids know what to expect. They know what the rules are, and they also feel supported and loved and like we are on their team. And that is a kind of parenting that has been around since there have been parents and children, because that's how it gets handed down to us, right? Positive discipline is sort of the modern way that I think of it now. And it includes being supportive and, again, setting boundaries, but being supportive and being helpful without doing everything for our child. So that there's like the idea of, quote, old school parenting as, I've also heard this called wise parenting, which isn't a name that I love, but it works. And I've also heard it called authoritative parenting, that's the name that I learned when I was earning my degrees in human development, family relations, and my master's degree in early childhood education. Authoritative parenting is that sort of sweet spot in the middle. But I like old school parenting for that. And it's something that I think I'm tempted to go on about forever, but I just don't, this isn't the time or place for that. So I want to give you helpful tools. And so the first helpful tool that I wanted to give you is the inspiration. Like, you can be an old school parent. You can be a parent who is both loving and supportive and has the appropriate boundaries and rules in place so that our kids feel safe and loved. And this same woman in our Facebook group, the same mom in our Facebook group, for the whole of the pandemic, she wrote on or for the whole of the original lockdown, we're now so many months into this, but anyway, for many months, up on her bathroom mirror, she had written the words safe, fed, loved. And she felt like, if this is all I give my child today, that's okay. And spoiler alert, that child is thriving because of the great relationship that they have and the boundaries that are in place, and also the loving and the wonderful caring parts of that are in place. So I invite your questions. If you've got any questions about like I talked before, for example, about how corporal punishment is a huge no-no. That is negative discipline. It is not what I'm into at all. And you want to find out more about that? Like, one question that I get a lot is like, well, how do I discipline my child, for example, when they've written on the walls and they weren't supposed to? How do I use positive discipline to come through that situation? And if you've got questions like that, Karen at WeTurnedOutOKAY.com is how you can get to me, reach me, or you can go to WeTurnedOutOKAY.com/contact. I just want to be helpful. And if this is sort of an idea that's creating some cognitive dissonance in you, first of all, I think that's a really good thing. And second of all, let me know, get in touch with me. Okay, so moving on, I have a key mindset tool that I want to share. And I'm calling this episode a key mindset tool for crisis parenting. If I heard this term for the first time just yesterday, and when I'm recording, it's mid-September, and I was blown away by it. It's like exactly what so many parents are going through right now. Maybe not everyone is in crisis parenting, but I bet an awful lot of you listening and watching are experiencing crisis parenting. It's like you can know what it means immediately. We're in a crisis, and yet we're still keeping going. One of the members of my online private coaching community describes the frustrations that she's having with like needing to sit right next to her virtual schooling daughter. And just how frustrating that is. She's got a job to do, but yet she feels like she can't leave her child's side. And that's something that we're working on in the Ninja Parenting community. I bet you are also experiencing moments like that where there's a push-pull of how do I get what I need? How do I help them get what they need? How do I keep the peace in this home? How do I come up with structures that are going to be interesting and new and different in this sameness? And first of all, I want to share how incredibly proud I am of you. You have come so far. If you are listening to this in September of 2020 or any time in the future, you have come through hell, man, and you're still standing. And so are your kids, right? They've been fed. Hopefully they've been able to feel safe and loved. You're keeping clothes on their backs. You are doing everything right to keep them alive in a time of history where that feels like a real challenge. And I just, first of all, want to say how incredibly proud I am of you. I hope you can feel the virtual hugs coming over the airwaves and to right into your heart, because that's what I'm all about. I'm super proud of you. And you've come this far, so I know that you're going to be able to keep going. So I want to give you a tool today to help you. And I think of this tool as it's a mindset tool. So maybe some of you are kind of rolling your eyes at the idea of like, oh, it's a mindset thing. Okay, whatever. It's probably going to be mindfulness, or it's probably going to be this, right? And we can feel so cynical about these words. So actually, spoiler alert, it is not mindfulness. That's not the tool I'm teaching on today. That's a really important tool, but it's not this one. So just to let you know. But I understand that eye rolling. I understand that sense of like, why do I have to start with my mind first? Why can't you just give me something that I can say to my kids, something that I can just do right now? And the answer, well, for the first part of the answer is I have complete and total sympathy for that and a lot of compassion. Sometimes we just wish we could be told what to do. You know, I was just speaking with Phyllis Fagel, who is a school counselor. She is an author. She's written a wonderful book called Middle School Matters. She's a journalist. She writes for the Washington Post. Neat, awesome lady. And she said that one of the kids that she was talking to recently told her, you know what, everything is unprecedented. We keep hearing about all this unprecedented stuff. She says, what I just want is something precedented. And we can feel like that, but this is a time where we need to get creative because there is not a lot of precedented stuff going on right now. I'm going to link to Phyllis Fagel in the show notes, so I'm just going to make sure that I write that down. That was episode 345. Gosh, we are getting high up in these numbers. Woohoo! Anyway, so there's this quote that I'm not going to remember exactly, but it basically it says something like your ideas create your opinions, something like that. or your ideas create your principles. Your principles create your opinions. I'm not going to get it exactly right. I'm super sorry. Your opinions or principles, whatever they are, create your actions. Your actions create your habits, and your habits create your life. Now, again, I don't remember it exactly. If I can find the correct quote and put it in the show notes, I will. But what we've got here is you've got thoughts up at the top of this hierarchy, right? And then you've got life at the very bottom. So in short, our ideas create our life. So that's why we need to start from a mindset place. And this particular tool, I am helping you. I'm putting on my coaching hat here. I guess I've had it on since the beginning of the show, but I like to say, I'm not in this moment, I'm not your supportive friend. I am your coach that is better, that's better than having a supportive friend here. I'm someone, I see these principles work, not just for me, but for the people that I work closely with every day. And so to help you come from a good and hopeful place, I want to share this tool with you. Now, I also want to explain about what it means to come from a good and hopeful place, right? I've heard recently that it's not where we're going to that matters, it's where we're coming from. And so to help you come from a good and hopeful place, basically the tool, I think of it as envisioning a good outcome. And the story that I want to share about it is how terrified I used to be getting on an airplane. So I know this is from the sort of old times now. Not many of us are getting on airplanes, but I firmly believe that we will again, and we will feel safe in doing that. I don't know how that's going to happen, but again, my ideas are creating my life. And so I like to not think that I've gotten on my last airplane, put it that way. And I like to think that times will come about again where we can feel safe and happy getting on airplanes and going to visit our relatives and loved ones. So, but in the before times, when I wasn't a parent, I was perfectly happy to get on airplanes. I thought they were cool and interesting and fun. And then I had a baby, and he was 4 months old. It was time to get on an airplane, and I was terrified. And then I'm on the airplane and I'm envisioning all the horrible bad things that might happen because I chose to take my baby on this airplane. And we landed and everything was great. And that trip, like future ones, was tainted a little bit because all I was doing was worrying about, a lot of what I was doing was worrying about what was going to happen when we got back on that airplane to go home. And one year when the boys were about probably 10 and 6. So it was before my tendon disorder. It was before that disruption. My relatives, my parents live in Colorado, and we've been incredibly fortunate to be able to go out and visit them a lot of years for skiing, for summertime fun. It's so great. They are very, very happy out there, and we get to go out there. And I wouldn't live there, but I do love to visit, and it's so much fun to go out and visit with them. So this particular year, we were on this airplane. Actually, they could have even been a little bit older because it was just before I learned the tool I'm gonna teach you. And I'm doing my thing where I'm on the airplane and I'm like freaking out, and I'm trying not to show that I'm freaking out. Like the tears are coming out of my eyes, but I've got them turned away from my kids, who are both excited and looking out the window as we take off and land. I mean, I just was such a nervous flyer. And we're almost on the ground in Colorado. And, the landing gear has come out and we've done all the turns. And, what's funny is my dad was a pilot, and he was very helpful in helping me understand the pattern that a pilot learns to land a plane. He was like what would you call him? I suppose an amateur pilot. I mean, he had his pilot's license. He was able to fly with, as the head of the plane or whatever, but it was he wasn't flying for an airline or anything like that. He was just flying just because he loved to fly. So anyway, he helped me understand that pilots are only allowed to be licensed pilots, once they have learned and internalized this process. And the times when we hear about flight accidents, at least on a personal pilot level, like not, as I say, not an airline pilot or something like that. But when you hear about, for example, JFK Jr., I remember my dad was a pilot. He was flying planes at that time. And when John F. Kennedy Jr. crashed a plane, and the reason that he crashed it was because he didn't trust his instruments. He wasn't trusting his tools. And so my dad basically has internalized this lesson. He taught a lot of that to me. So anyway, here we are hovering above the runway, like what feels like 5 feet above the runway. And all of a sudden, the plane starts taking off again. And I am now like in massive panic. I'm like, what is going on here? This is not what's supposed to happen. It's all wrong. We're going to crash. I mean, like, these are the thoughts that are going through my head, right? We get back up in the air. The pilot comes on and says, so sorry about that. We had to do an extra go around because it's really windy and we needed to be safe to land. So long story short, we do finally land, and I am just a wreck, and thinking about flying home, messed me up for that whole trip. So fast forward a year, maybe or 2 later, I now have the tendon disorder. And not only that, but I have the upper body tendon disorder. So that was a few years after I'd gotten into the problems with my tendons. The original problems were in my legs. And I've now read a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. I am going to just write down the word Success Principles here in case you want to read this book. It was a game changer for me because what you're reading about is people in dire situations who turned their lives around, and that's what I was trying to do when I started to read this book. And one of the tools that Jack Canfield teaches in this book is about how to envision a good outcome. And basically, like at the beginning of this chapter, he says something along the lines of, this is going to change your life. It doesn't take any time at all. Like, your life is the way it is now. And in 30 seconds after you implement this, your life is going to be a whole other way. If you are afraid of flying, the next time you get on a plane, you will not be afraid of flying. And I was like, oh, come on. I can't believe that. And I'm telling you now, I tried it and it's true. And it actually worked. And so for me, I needed to envision the positive outcome of safely taking off and safely landing. And when I was spending my time envisioning the plane safely taking off and safely landing, instead of envisioning the plane crashing and going up in a horrible flaming, bunch of smoke and all that kind of stuff, because that was what I was consumed with before. And so instead, in every takeoff and landing, and any other time that I wanted to while I was on the plane, I just envisioned all of us safely in our seats and the pilots, competently, cheerfully doing their job, and taking the plane off successfully and landing it successfully. And I at the same time, I adopted a mantra. I don't know how to say that, if it's mantra or mantra. To me, it feels different to say mantra, so I'm going to say mantra. Like, I like that better. Anyway, don't know. Hopefully that's okay. And the one that I started to say to myself was, I am enjoying the thrill of flying. And it's so funny. Sometimes, like, I've actually shared that with people, how that helps me get on and off a plane quite cheerfully and see interesting and cool things while I'm flying. For example, now I absolutely love to be in the clouds, because you can, like, especially when they're puffy clouds and you're going in and out of the cloud cover. I just think that is the coolest thing, to be on a plane, sitting in a chair in the sky, as some comedian once said. Just what a miracle that is. So cool. But I've had people, when I've shared with them my mantra, I am enjoying the thrill of flying. People are like, oh, it's thrilling. That's the word, right? And like, you can just hear the cynicism kind of dripping. And I feel like that's a person who's nervous getting on and off a plane. And the idea of envisioning the good outcome of taking off and landing safely, and even incorporating that into the mantra of, I am enjoying the thrill of flying, that's the tool. So I feel like that was a really long story, but I wanted to help you understand how transformative this has been for me. I no longer freak out on planes, and the energy that I bring to flight is positive and good energy. And like it was literally the idea of taking 10 seconds to envision a safe takeoff and a safe landing. And the idea of saying, to repeating, this, it doesn't even take a split second to say, I am enjoying the thrill of flying. And I can't tell you how helpful that has been for me. It's literally been transformative. It was an insight that took 30 seconds to implement and has completely changed my life. And not only did it change my life, but it changed my children's lives, because I can communicate good outcomes to them. When we can envision a positive outcome, it changes everything. We're not stuck in the downward cycle of worry and anxiety. I am still a person who lives with anxiety. I don't think you have the kind of body issues that I've had. I don't think you're just the kind of person. So when I was a young child, when I was 7 years old, I was molested by I was molested in my own home by a relative, an extended relative. And there is an episode during which I talk about that. No, there is in my book, Positive Discipline into Tactics, I talk about that, because I think that's an important story to share, because I am not a victim. Instead, I'm a survivor. And but that was really the reason I bring it up now, is because that is when I became an anxious person. Prior to being 7 years old and being molested in my own home, I was not an anxious person. And I do still live with that anxiety. And what that means is I need to work extra hard to pay attention to the good things. And I need to work extra hard to remember that the antidote to anxiety is action, which is one of my favorite expressions. It's by a therapist named Elvin Semrat. The antidote to anxiety is action. And the action I'm teaching you to take today is to use this tool to come from a good and hopeful place by envisioning a good outcome. And so I want to ask you, what is troubling you right now? What is your version of, I can't get on this plane because it's going to crash? I can't bring my children on this plane because I will be ruining their lives. What's your version of that in this moment, in this pandemic, in this crazy year, with the silly politics and the frustrations and the like in your own neighborhood kind of conflicts that are arising? I don't know about you, but one of the things that I have been most anxious about is where I live. I see, as we're driving around, we'll see signs that just share so much intolerance and so much fear on the part of those people who would put out those signs. And for a long time, I've been incredibly anxious about it. And it's only gotten worse because those people are pushing their agenda, which I fundamentally disagree with. It's really based in racial intolerance, and I just cannot abide that. So on the one hand, I'm losing patience with quote, these people who are being so judgmental and so racist and so harsh, right? And on the other hand, I am that nothing good comes of that when I envision those people being angry and doing awful things, right? So what I've learned to do is to use this tool, try to envision a good and positive outcome in which, for them, that their fears are alleviated, that they make a connection with someone who they had thought of as, quote, other, and realize this person is just like me, and we are working towards the same good and positive things. And wishing them also freedom from fear. And every time I see one of these signs that I'm not going to describe, because I'm sure you have them, your version of them, in your own neighborhoods and your own towns where you live in cities. But when I see these signs, I just try to wish those people freedom from fear. And I don't know if they'll ever know that, but I know it. I know that I'm trying to put kindness and compassion into the world. And that's really, really, really what matters. So what I'm asking you to do right now is to just think about, like, what is your version of a fear that's so deep-seated and so scary and produces so much anxiety, whether it's in your parenting, because there's a lot of those as well right now with schooling the way it is and with kids the way they are. This is a tough time that we're living in right now. It's tough to be at home all the time, and it's tough on our kids as well. Um, and it may be producing more mischief or more misbehavior or more sibling fighting or more disrespect. And so what is that? What is that anxiety? And what I want you to try and do is just envision a good outcome for it. So if your children are attacking each other or being incredibly disrespectful to you, envision a good outcome. And like in your mind, picture them sitting next to each other with their arms around each other and laughing together, right? Like picture them playing together in a positive and fun way. And maybe a mantra that you could adopt is, I am raising a kind child, or I'm raising a kind family. Like whatever version of your anxiety that is, envision the good outcome, try to come up with a mantra. And when you are seeing the bad behavior and it's making you worry, think on that good outcome, bring it to your mind, have it in the front of your mind as much as you can. I know how hard that is, but that's what it takes. It doesn't take a lot of time. It just takes the mindfulness, there is that word, to remember that like things end well. We can imagine something ending well, and help them end that relationship well, or help them to a better future by imagining that relationship going well. And I'm sure you can find a bunch of other ways to use this tool, envisioning the good outcome, and then deriving a mantra from that, from that vision. And I really hope this has been helpful for you. We are wrapping up. As we wrap up, I have a couple of things that I want to invite you to, that I'm very, very, very excited about. So first, let me just say thank you so much for listening. I'm really glad that you are here with me. I hope you've gotten something out of this tool. I know this is one of my I do love rabbit holes, and longtime listeners often tell me that they love these rabbit holes too. And so today I feel like has kind of been a whole rabbit hole, and I hope it's been helpful for you. I have these things that I want to invite you in on. So recently I took the podcast to every other week, and I did it because I had some other things that I wanted to offer you, and to other ways to serve you. And now I'm going to share some of them with you. So the first one is, I have been creating something that's incredibly useful. It's called the We Turned Out Okay Playbook. And I know it's useful because I'm hearing from subscribers about how much they love it, which is so wonderful. And I just want to say thank you. Somebody said recently, they said it's worth every penny. And Janine Halloran, who is a licensed mental health counselor, a best-selling author, she's written some books that you might already know and love. Coping Skills for Kids is one. Coping Skills for Teens is another. She's a good friend of mine. And she was one of the first people that got a peek at the We Turned Out Okay playbook. And here's what she said about it. She said, this playbook is a life raft for families who are adrift. And boy, did that make me feel good. If you need that life raft, if you are having trouble staying afloat, you should go to WeTurnedOutOKAY.com/playbook and read a little bit more about it, and subscribe if you want to. It's funny, describing the playbook is a little bit difficult, but it's at its heart, it's a calendar. I was just going to grab, I've got September's over there. I was just going to grab it, but I won't, because I don't know what I'm going to disrupt in my podcasting setup here. So anyway, I'm going to do this without visuals for those of you who are listening. It's a calendar, and every single day of the coming month, for example, the month of October is coming up, I give you one tiny step that you can take towards thriving, and towards helping your kids to thrive, and towards modeling good and happy living. I have an opening essay that I write, and those have been so much fun to write, because they are very positive, and they confront the big deals, the big things that we're dealing with in our parenting in that moment. So October's is all about the fear that's in the zeitgeist and the negativity that we can feel. And I share a really key tool for a key way of looking at that, and shaping it to like turning it to be what we need it to be, and then helping our kids, shaping our kids' behavior from that, from that tool. And then what we do is we spend the whole month taking tiny, simple, powerful steps towards getting that outcome that we want. And if that sounds good to you, again, it's WeTurnedOutOKAY.com/playbook. I really want to invite you to come and subscribe. People are loving it. It's really helpful, and I hope it will help you. If you want to do that for October, if you want October's playbook, it goes to print in real time. This podcast comes out on Tuesday, the 22nd of September. The playbook is going to print at noon on Wednesday, the 23rd of September. So if you want to subscribe, if you want some details, if you want to look into this, please do it before noon on September 23rd. That's noon Eastern time. That's when I'm going to bring it over to the printers. And I really want to be able to print one for you. So go ahead and subscribe to the We Turned Out Okay playbook. You will be glad you did. The next thing that I wanted to invite you into is the Ninja Parenting Community, which is my online private coaching practice. I've been running it for 4 years. I've been helping parents truly live better and happier lives with their kids, even in crazy times like we're going through now. So we've been through several years of parents having crises, parents with kids who are so angry and they just don't know what to do, to stop their child from lashing out in anger, disrespectful kids who don't get along with siblings, like all that kind of stuff is something that we've always dealt with. But in the pandemic now, it's really taken on much more significance. The work that we do in there is powerful, powerful work. And this coming Saturday, if you're listening in real time, again, Saturday, September 26th, the rate for the Ninja Parenting Community is doubling. So you want to get in there while it is still at its current rate, before it doubles. And the nice thing is, whether this is before or after September 26th, Saturday, September 26th of 2020, I'm inviting you to come in and try your whole first month for free. So we do these live members only calls where parents can ask their questions, and where we get to be together and learn something about parenting. We have weekly book club meetings where we're going chapter by chapter. Right now we just started Educating Happy Kids. And with this joining for your first month for free, you'll have 4 We Turned Out Okay book club meetings. And you'll have 2 NPC live members only calls. Everyone who joins is entitled to a private parent coaching call with me. One parent coaching call where we go deep and we figure out what are your biggest concerns and challenges, and we get you started in overcoming those challenges. The parent coaching calls are like some of my favorite things, and some of the things that members feel are most beneficial and most effective. It is a time for the 2 of us to just connect and figure out how to help you move forward in your parenting, no matter what you're confronting, big or small, and no matter when. I mean, becoming a member of the Ninja Parenting Community just for that coaching call is something that people have told me is super, super, super helpful. And it involves a lot more than that. So, and as I say, the price is going up, the rate is going up. It's going to double on Saturday, September the 26th. So go right now to WeTurnedOutOKAY.com/join-NPC to find out more about getting that free month, starting off with that free month, and do it if you can before the price doubles. So yeah, those are the things that I'm really thrilled to invite you into, that have to do with in my audience, on my platform, the Playbook and the Ninja Parenting Community, 2 places where I'm thrilled that you can always work with me. And the third one is I have been invited to be in a virtual summit given by a wonderful woman named Holly Peretz. She runs a website that is all about toddlers and the importance of play. Like there's one part where she talks about I'm trying to remember exactly how this goes. She said it the cutest way. She basically said, you know, I teach parents how to help their kids heal from you know, when they've been hurt, or deal with scary things, because there can be scary things in a child's world, or get along better with siblings and everybody. And then she writes, like, spoiler alert, it's play. And this conference, this summit, is called the Online Toddler Play Summit, and I am one of quite a few guests. I believe there's 20 of us. Holly is running this conference starting next week, Monday the 28th. What I decided to do is to give you these things that I'm inviting you to in chronological order. So starting Monday the 28th, and that is the day that I am going to be a part of this conference, you can basically have a free ticket to the summit. And you can do that by just going into these show notes right here in your podcatcher. You'll find the links for everything I'm talking about, including the way that you can get your free ticket to the Online Toddler Play Summit. I really hope you do. As I said, I'm just one of many experts, and we all have great things to contribute. Holly herself has fabulous things to contribute. My presentation is all about what we've been talking about today. Like, how do we keep going when we are raising young children? How do we not become exhausted? How do we find happiness? How do we model thriving for our kids? And I really would invite you to go and just look down these show notes and grab that free ticket, because I think you're going to love it. I think you're going to love the whole conference. I'm excited, and I'm so honored to be invited. And yeah, I think it's going to be great, and I think you're going to love it. So, okay, enough about that. How many times can I say that? Can you tell I'm really excited about it? All right, we are now wrapping up this episode of We Turned Out Okay. Everything that you have seen or heard here can be found at weturnedoutokay.com/346. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. I love you, and I'm so thrilled that you're here with me. We are walking this journey together. It feels so wonderful to do that. I also have a super special thank you for our producer, the man whose voice you hear at the top of this show. He and I are holding hands, walking this journey together, and I don't know what I would do without him. He's amazing. Not just our producer, but the 23-time winner of the Husband of the Year Award, Benjamin Culp. Thank you so much again for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.